In this corner, weighing 7 watts with a max speed of 10,000 millimeters per minute, a working area of 150 by 200 millimeters, with a laser dot of 0 millimeters square, costing $149, the Artilume T1. And in this corner, weighing 5 watts with a max speed of 3,000 millimeters per second and a working area of 200 millimeters square and a laser dot of 0.02 millimeters square, coming in at $270, we have the Atomstack P7. A sampling of our big battle between the T1 and the P7. The T1 and stuff is over here on the left and the P7 is over on the right. We can maybe zoom in and take a peek at some of this side by side and see how they compare. Okay, this is my material test for the 3mm craft plywood. The problem with this particular test is between the layers in the plywood there are voids and gaps, and the wood is not always consistent. So burning craft plywood is always kind of a guess as far as is it going to cut through or not. In the test that I did between the T1 and the P7, it looks like the T1 outperformed the P7. Now granted, this is a little bit more powerful. It's a 7-watt laser, so it's 40% more powerful when you do the math. And down here, this is what we get from the P7. One thing I did notice was there's a lot of flash or a lot of yellowing that I got from the T1 that I was not getting from the P7. Could that be from the wood? Maybe. Also, on the back of the T1, if you look, there's a lot of blowout. When I pushed the little squares through, they were still connected. And so every single one of these areas, this one isn't, but there's a lot of blowout, meaning that some of the layers of the plywood actually tore off as I was poking those out, which tells me it wasn't cutting all the way through necessarily. So it's hard to know where we have good parameters. Typically, the higher the power and the slower it goes, the better it's going to be. So if we look down here, this one looks like a good square. Both of these do. So if we pull this back over, we can see at 70% at 125 millimeters per minute. And I would presume that 80% had worked well, and maybe it was one of these others that ripped through, or there's just a defect in the material. But I did get quite a bit to come out here. So that kind of tells me that somewhere over here, 80%, I maybe can go 200, 250-ish on the speed, and that should work. On the P7, if we look at the back, I got very little of that blowout. There's a little bit here, but all of these are clean. These are clean, and it looks like maybe, this is the one that blew out both sides. So this is kind of clean in here. So that's this area right in here. So at 80%, 200 was this top one, and that had a little bit of blowout. So maybe that would be the most that we could do here. So side-by-side comparison, it looks like the T1 maybe did a little bit of a better job. It's always difficult to tell with craft plywood because of the inconsistencies in the material. If we take a look at MDF, which we'll do next, that's a man-made material and much more consistent. And here we can see that the P7 outperformed the T1. Even though the T1 is a more powerful laser, this is 7 watts, and the P7 is only 5 watts. again, according to the statistics on the T1, this is a 0.04 by 0.04 laser dot, and this is a 0.02 by 0.02 laser dot. So 25% less area, so that energy is focused on a smaller spot. That's why the P7 tends to punch above its weight. It acts more like a bigger laser because it has that tight, at least for cutting, it has that tight laser dot. Which is interesting because when we look at the kerf width, we'll find that that's not holding true there. So a little confusing on that. Again, the T1 has a lot of this scoring going on all over. Wherever it was burning, it's scored pretty badly. The P7 is scored, but not nearly as bad. Even in the lettering, it's not nearly as bad on as far as the scoring goes. And as we can see, we got quite a bit more to cut out on the Atomstack. So all the way up to 325 at 80% power versus the T1, we maybe got 225 at 80% power. So the P7 should cut through quicker. And again, both of these are 2 passes. If we look at the back, the interesting thing is there's more scoring on the P7 than the T1. So, but again, I'd rather have the scoring on the back side versus the top side. So we can kind of see where some of these squares almost got cut out, but not quite. Same up here, there's some almosts, but not quite. So on the MDF, the winner is going to have to be the P7 for that. So craft plywood, the more powerful T1 seemed to do a better job, and on the MDF, which is more consistent material, the P7 clearly outperformed the T1. Here we have material tests for business cards. This is the T1, this is the P7. I put the parameters in backwards when I did the P7. Normally I have the power across the bottom and the speed going vertically, and I have those reversed. And over here, the T1 seems to have done a much better job in the video. I mean, you look at how clean all of these cuts are until you get over here at the 5%. Maybe this top 10% one isn't quite as good, but at 15% all the way up to 80%, most of the speeds in here look really good. It starts to get dark again, which is kind of odd that more power at this 2,000 millimeters per minute seems to darken up just a little bit. Not quite sure what's going on there, but we do have a ton of parameters in here that look like they'll work really well. So at 6,000 millimeters per minute, we should be able to run at 20% power. That's this one right here, and that looks nice and clean. Over here for the P7, I've always had issues with the P7 doing etching on business cards because its laser dot is much more fine. I've had to do like hatching where I'll go left and right, and then I'll go up and down, up and down. So I'll basically cut the area twice, which doesn't give us any benefit whatsoever. And when we look at the speed, when we're going 3,000 millimeters per minute at 10% power, it cut through, but pretty much the same as it was doing all the way this whole area here. So it wasn't until these last few where we were doing 100% power at the slower speeds. So this is 1,250 millimeters per minute at 100% power. I like to do stuff at 80 if I can. So this is starting to not be quite as crisp. Looking at the results here, the T1 definitely is the winner. Both of these turned out fairly well. I was going to put these under the microscope so we could see really closer, but I decided not to do that. Again, this is the T1 over here, and this is the P7. Both look really nice. This one seems to be brighter, though. I mean, it even picks it up in the video. In real life, it shows it's much more dramatic, but even in the video, it shows this one is much brighter than this one. And maybe I will get the magnifying or the microscope out. I don't know. We can probably zoom in and just see what those look like a little bit closer. All right, this is the most it'll let me zoom in and still focus. So I'm looking at the details here. I'm looking at like these little dots and the lines. Both lasers did a really good job of cutting through. It's just, again, this one looks brighter for some reason than this one. Both of these look really good in person, so it's hard to know which one to, to declare the winner because they both look good. I'm going to have to go, I think, with the T1 just because it's a brighter image. So for this battle, I think I'm going to have to go with the T1. The final thing I want to look at is the kerf width test. This is a project that was available through Lightburn. If I remember, I'll put a link down in the description to this project. You can download it. It's really kind of a slick way to test for kerf. It basically cuts out these blocks and this little slider, and then there's a vernier scale down here to measure millimeters. So we've got millimeters up here and tenths of millimeters down here. And when you push this all the way to the side, you get a reading. And in my case, the T1 did a 1.2 and the P7 did a 1.6, which is not consistent with the laser dot size advertised for both of these machines. Which is odd because the P7 tends to have a very thin laser line when it's doing etching. I don't know if this is thicker because we're cutting through the material or what, but the stronger laser, the 7-watt T1, definitely has a smaller kerf than the 5-watt P7. So the kerf ends up being 0.06, which is not bad at all. That's a decent, that's a really small kerf. A lot of lasers tend to be at 0.1 millimeters. And the P7 ended up being 0.08. So we're talking 0.02 of a millimeter difference between the two lasers. So pretty close, but in this test, I'm going to have to give that one to the T1 as well. In this particular battle of the portable lasers, I'm going to have to give the win to the Artilume T1. It's definitely more portable because you can collapse up the legs, you can spin this arm around and get it to tuck in behind. It does have a smaller working area, so it's only 150 by 200, whereas the Atomstack is 200 by 200. I tend not to use the small laser for big projects. If I'm going to do something bigger, I'll go to the bigger laser. It's just kind of the way that it is. This is a more powerful laser. It seems to do a really good job. I love how this guard is just held on with magnets. And I figured out what this arch is for. When this is running and you're using this, because it's so close to the material, this gives a spot for the fan, the cooling fan, to blow air down. And instead of blowing the smoke or residue every single direction, it really wants to blow out this direction. And you can have that towards the back, you can have it towards either side or to the front, whatever makes sense for a particular burn. I do like the Artilume T1. I will put a link down in the description where you can go look at the lasers that Artilume has. If you like the T1, get yourself one. As of filming, as I mentioned, you can get this for $109 right now. So that's a pretty decent savings over its normal $149. The Atomstack P7, from what I can tell, is no longer made. You can get them. There's some used ones out there. It's a fantastic laser. I really like it. You just can't get a new one. And the going price is still a couple $100. So this is definitely cost savings, and if you want to be portable, you can get a case for this. And the nice thing about the case is once it's all folded up, it fits around that. When it's not around it and you're using it, you can actually attach the two sides of the case down here on the feet. It slides in these little grooves, and then that will have the laser sit up higher. So if you're working on a various kind of material that maybe is a little bit thicker, then that would be a bonus to do that. The Atomstack did come with some leg risers as well, so it can be lifted up. But it did come with those, whereas this did not. Well, the winner of this challenge is the Artilume T1. This is a nice little portable laser. Laser head, it's a 7 watt, does a nice job. It's fast and pretty lightweight too. So this is the winner of our challenge. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I did get a discount code. I'm not quite sure how long that lasts, but I'll put that down in the description. AT10, and that will get you $10 off purchase if you buy one of these lasers. As always, if you like the content of our channel, think about subscribing, as that really helps us out. Enjoy doing your CNC at home projects. Oops. Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's like, why would anybody need a portable laser? You know, well, maybe you have a bunch of wood that you need to get split. How do you know where to hit it? That's where the portable laser comes in. Yeah, here it is. We're out in the wild. Just have a computer set up on one stump or log. Got the laser over here. And we've got light burn up. I don't know if you can see this. There's a lot of glare out here. Maybe from the side. I can't even see my screen here. I have no idea what I'm aimed at. Anyway, it says cut here with a big X. And that's what the Artilume is doing right now. Kind of looks like shadow, but it isn't. It's actually putting an X on the log, and it'll say cut here. We'll come back in a little bit when it's done and see how that worked out. Almost done. At least now I'll know exactly where to cut. And when I'm done with this one, there's only a few more to go. As well as, then there's these big logs that need to get cut down. There's a bunch of these little ones stacked up here as well, on top of some big ones. Not sure what I'm going to do with that thing yet. That was not supposed to be here. Okay, getting close here. Getting close to the end. This is why you need a portable laser. Almost done. Done. Nice. Artilume T1 portable laser gets the job done.